Hey soccer fans, Nick back with the Feed the Fire podcast. We are talking Chicago Fire, Major League Soccer, and the Chicago Fire's great win over the Columbus Crew this weekend, and what does that mean for their playoff chances? Spoiler alert, chances are very good the Fire will make the playoffs for the first time since 2017. We're going to break down the Columbus match a little bit. We're going to look at some other little news and headline that came out of the weekend, and we're going to take a look ahead at what the playoff scenarios are going to be for the Chicago Fire. If you want to continue interacting with the show, please email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on social media, again at GlassHouseSoccer. But if you're going to get to this episode real quick this Monday afternoon, evening, I'm also going to be joining Battered Herons, an Inter Miami podcast, tonight, 8 p.m. Central, on their YouTube channel to talk about the Chicago-Miami matchup taking place tomorrow, September 30th. So if you're listening early enough, make sure you join the YouTube channel, or if you're listening to it afterwards, go back, give it a watch, and leave some comments on there for all the fans and friends of Inter Miami. Want to remind everyone that the show is brought to you by Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. We've got this beautiful Indian summer here in Chicago, second summer. Make sure you stay hydrated with a bottle of Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. All right, let's dive on into the content here. The Chicago Fire Columbus Crew matchup. You remember they opened the season at Columbus, got off to a lead, but then ended up falling 4-2. And what I remember from that match was that the Fire really struggled to play out of the back, and that they took advantage of the fact when the outside backs could get forward. As the match wore on, Columbus adjusted, was able to keep Gutman and the other outside backs on the Chicago Fire side of the field, which really stymied the offense. What was different in this game? Now, we have two completely different rosters and two completely different playing styles, it would seem, from these two teams. If we look at the Chicago Fire, their starting lineup was a 4-3-3, your standard 4-3-3, what we knew from Berhalter coming in. But in this match, in this recent match, it ended up being a 3-4-3 or a 5-4-1, depending on how you want to look at it and classify it. Chris Brady starting in net. We had three center backs, Sam Rogers on the left, Jack Elliott in the center, and Joel Waterman on the right. And this is the second game in a row now we've seen the Fire use a three center back system, and use it with great effect, by the way. Four midfielders from left to right, Zinkernagel, Davila, Franco, and Bamba, and your starting attacker, Hugo Cuypers, and then you have Andrew Gutman and Leo Barroso as your outside wingbacks, who a lot of this game were up even with Cuypers in the attacking areas. So you have a very good formation for both attack and defense here. You see the three center backs really locking things down, but you also, the key to this formation to me is that transition from offense to defense. When Gutman and Barroso have to track back and get back and be part of that five-man back line, there's opportunity to be caught on quick counters. So I don't believe the Chicago Fire would use this formation against a Red Bulls-like team, or potentially even against Miami tomorrow, in case they do get caught in a quick counterattacking scenario where they can play the ball in behind Davila and Franco, and you have some of these Miami attackers with one-on-one matchups or 2v2 matchups with Elliott, Waterman, or Rogers. However, the Fire have used it to great effect in these last two games, and maybe they want to use it again to keep the pressure on Miami. The wrinkle is going to be Sam Rogers, receiving his yellow card in the last match against Columbus for time wasting, now has to sit out a game on yellow card accumulation. So are the Fire comfortable playing a three-back system with Chris Cuypers, Jack Elliott, and Joel Waterman? Are those guys fit enough to play another 90 in the back as the center backs on the team, or are we going to see that transition back to our standard 4-3-3? To be determined. Again, I think the Fire would like to try a 3-4-3 or a 5-4-1 against Miami, but do they have the personnel to do it with Rogers being out, and do they need to keep Cuypers in as a reserve for Elliott or Waterman if one of them start to tire coming off a short turnaround? But anyway, that's how the Fire lined up. If you look at the Columbus Crew, they came out in a standard 4-3-3. Evan Bush in goal. Herrera, Shaberko, Morera, and Amundsen along the back line. Nagbe, Shambo, and Sadic in your midfield. And Picard, Gazdag, and Arston, your attacking three. Much different than the team the Fire faced at the beginning of the season. And the Fire end up with the 2-0 victory. Andrew Gutman starts the scoring off in the 25th minute for the Chicago Fire. Pause. Let me restate that again. Andrew Gutman scores the Fire's third goal in the 25th minute, and the Fire go up 1-0. Yep, the Fire had 2 disallowed goals before that, one for offsides and one for a high kick, a foul in the box off of a corner kick, which was kind of funny because my son was just begging me to go buy him some food, and we tailgated, we ate. I don't want to spend too much money on stadium food. And I said, fine, if the Fire score off this corner kick, we'll go get nachos. And sure enough, they score off the corner kick, but then it's called back for a high kick foul. So unfortunately, he didn't get his nachos. But don't worry, I was a good dad and was getting a little hungry myself. We ended up getting nachos shortly before halftime. After Gutman scored that one in the 25th, I had to keep my promise good, right? So the Fire were all over Columbus in this first half. They could have been up 3-4-0 at halftime the way they were playing, but if it weren't for a couple offside calls and a couple calls by center ref Tori Penso, man, the Boo Birds were booing her in the second minute of the game when she disallowed that goal. I think it was from Gutman, but he got his in the 25th. Now, call it what you want, but it was a goal of the week. You call it a cross, call it a shot, call it a weird curve on the boot or wind taking it, whatever it was a spectacular goal by Gutman, and whether he meant to do it or not, he ends up literally taking a bow to the audience when that goes in. One of the better goals you're going to see this year. Go find the replay. Check it out. Cuypers tops off the scoring, gives a little security in the 70th minute for Chicago, 2-0, and that ends up being the final. Cuypers gets a great ball through, is able to get in behind, chip the keeper. Bush, man, even though the scoreline was 2-0, he did not have a good day in net. A lot of balls saw the back of the net and just didn't count because of the official calls. But what I will say, and this is something I put out online on Twitter and social media, that I had to leave the game a little early. I left the game probably around the 65th minute. Again, son's not feeling well. He says, can we go home a little early? And if my son says we need to leave a soccer game early, then I know something's up. So I was able to get him in the car, and boom, he passed out right away. Slept the whole way home, which was nice. But the Chicago Fire felt in control of that game. It was a rare occasion for me to leave a game, turn a match off, stop really paying attention in the 65th to a Fire game, and feel comfortable about it. I didn't think that I was going to get home and check my phone and find out the Chicago Fire ended up losing 2-1. I felt comfortable walking out of that stadium that the Fire were going to secure 3 points. And then when I got out of the stadium and I hear the roar of the crowd on the Cuypers goal and I get the notification on my phone, I'm like, yeah, that second goal was coming for sure. And the Fire are going to see this game out and secure the 3 points. They dominated all facets of this game. The coaching came out with a great tactic. The players executed. We got the subs in on time in order to rest the legs. You see the entire midfield comes out. Haile Selassie, Pineda, Acosta, Gutierrez, Jonathan Dean all come in the game to try and give the starters a little bit of a rest ahead of this Miami matchup, and just trying to navigate over to look at the exact timing of these substitutes that came in. We see the first substitution, Jonathan Dean comes in for Barroso in the 50th. Barroso getting a start after taking some time off for a nagging injury. Then after that Cuypers goal, we see the midfield get subbed in. Guti comes in for Bamba, Haile Selassie in for Zinkernagel, and Pineda in for Davila in the 72nd and 73rd minute. And then Acosta gives Franco a curtain call, subbing in for him in the 90th minute. Franco with a fantastic game. Beautiful passing. Just was able to kind of assert the Fire's will on this game as well. Another great game from Jay Davila as well, keeping possession, controlling the flow of the game, and never letting Columbus get into any sort of a rhythm. Looking at the statistics here, it wasn't even close from a statistical standpoint other than possession. Chicago had 49% possession, but is credited with 22 shots, 9 shots on goal, and 9 blocked shots. They had 481 total passes at an 86% passing accuracy, an excellent possession game. 7 corners, 5 in the first half. They finished the Frank in the first half. I hope all you ticket holders went out and got your Portillo's hot dog today. Hopefully I can still get to mine sometime tonight before they close up and the deal expires. 7 corners taken total. 1 total cross, though, but with 7 corners. I guess that's all right. And I guess when you're pushing your wingers up like Gutman and Barroso, then they are able to play a little bit more of a link-up game, a little bit more of a 1-2 game than just kind of bombing and crosses. The Fire ended up with 3.1 expected goals, one of their better XG performances. Though they underperformed it, shows that they were getting those high percentage chances, but also that they were doing it in volume, right? That you have 9 shots on goal translating to an XG of just over 3. Brady's credited with 2 saves. I don't think he had one in the first half. Again, showing you how well the team was playing. Defense had 5 clearances, 7 fouls, and just that 1 yellow card for time wasting to Sam Rogers at the end of the game. If you look at the 5-minute possession segments, you see that the Fire, when they did dominate possession, or when they did have the possession, they dominated the possession. So a wonderful all-around game for the Chicago Fire here. I have to credit, I mean, you got to credit the whole team, the coaching staff, the team, the execution, all that sort of thing. But what I really enjoyed seeing, there were times of the game when I was watching Hugo Cuypers specifically, especially off the ball. He continues to make run after run after run, whether the ball's getting played toward him or not. Fantastic work. You see how comfortable Gutman and Dean were up front, but also, and Barroso, but also they knew when to track back. They knew when to get back quickly in order to not get countered on. Also, I spent a chunk of time just watching Joel Waterman, especially in that second half for the 20 or so minutes I was there. Just watching Joel Waterman and how he moves and how he's reading the play. His movement, I don't want to say off the ball movement because that's more of an offensive term, but when the other team is trying to set up, he's reading passes, 2 and 3 passes in the upcoming sequence and getting himself into position to disrupt the pass or to take away that second or third pass in what Columbus is trying to set up. So when you see them start to kind of play the ball around the midfield and get the ball to Nagbe, one of their playmakers, or get the ball to Shambo to either try to make a run or a forward pass, Waterman is already on the attacking player so that they have to recycle it back. And by that point, you have the Chicago Fire midfield playing tight defense. The other thing, on the defensive side of thing, watching Cuypers, you saw him pinch over because Gutman and Barroso and Dean were so far up the field in this 3 center back formation that the Fire have pulled out the last couple weeks. That allows them to press higher up the field and play defense up the field. And when the outside backs for Columbus would have the ball, yes, they would be able to either pass around or dribble around these guys, but not when Cuypers would shift over at the opportune time and double team and force Columbus into a lot of turnovers between him and Gutman or him and Barroso and Dean on the opposite side. So you saw that they weren't high pressing as much in this formation. You saw Cuypers dropping back into the middle third of the field where Dean and Barroso and Gutman were flanking him on either side. So they were allowing Cincinnati to bring the ball up into the center third and then spring that bit of a mid press, I'll call it, on the opponent, on Columbus, when they would try to start playing the ball to their wingers on the outside. So it was an excellent tactical performance by the coaching staff and by the team. They overcome some early calls from the officiating that, some people were saying, yeah, the offside calls were right. I think one of them was too close to tell, and they probably should have let it go at least to VAR rather than being called offside by the AR there. That foul in the box for a high kick, I I didn't see it. I don't know where that came from, especially in the second minute. I don't know if Penso was just trying to establish herself in the game to make sure that kind of stuff's not going on so things don't get chippy. But in the second minute of the game, that's really how you want to set things up. Disallow a goal for a high kick. I don't even think it was a high kick. But anyway, the Fire did not allow the refereeing decisions to affect their play and to affect their game plan. So they were mentally focused, they were prepared, they came out quick, they executed a great game plan, and they walk away with a 2-0 victory and are that much closer to securing a playoff spot. Here's where the playoff standings set in the Eastern Conference as of today after this weekend's matches. Your top 4 in the East: Philadelphia, Cincinnati, New York City, and Miami. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they'll be hosting. They have the first round home games as it stands today. There will probably be some shakeup between New York, Miami, possibly Charlotte and Nashville, who are in the 5 and 6 spots over the next few weeks. But that is where it sits today. Again, the 5, 6, and 7 spot: Charlotte, Nashville, Orlando. And again, all 7 of those teams have clinched the playoffs. We just don't know what their seeding is going to be, what their finishing position is going to be. Also, Columbus has clinched a playoff spot. They are currently sitting in 8th place in the play-in game. So that means there's only one playoff spot up for grabs. It is down to Chicago and the New York Red Bulls. Chicago sitting on 48 points, New York Red Bulls on 43 points, but Chicago has a game in hand. It's going to be this Tuesday matchup against Miami when Miami was playing in the League's Cup earlier this season. New England, Toronto, Montreal, Atlanta, DC all have been eliminated. So it is down to the Fire and the Red Bulls for that final spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, how can the Fire clinch a playoff spot? There's a number of scenarios. And MLS Soccer put out an article this morning about it. Men in Red 97 also wrote in detail about how the Fire can clinch a playoff spot. But essentially, they need 2 points. They need to take 2 points. So they can clinch against Miami tomorrow night with a win. The Fire can clinch a playoff spot when visiting Miami tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with a victory. Or the Red Bulls can be eliminated if Chicago clinches the 9th and final postseason place, and obviously that stands to reason. Let's see, a couple of facts as we look at the scenarios here. Chicago is nearing their first playoff berth since 2017, and the Red Bulls hold a league record 15-year playoff streak. Runners-up in MLS Cup last year, despite being beaten by the Fire in the regular season. So that's interesting. You've got the Red Bulls streak on the line, and the Chicago Fire looking to get back there for the first time in a number of seasons. So here are the scenarios according to MLSsoccer.com here. Chicago will clinch a playoff spot, and more than likely that play-in game, if they win at Miami. And New York will be eliminated if Chicago wins at Miami. The converse is true in this case. Now, there are a few other scenarios that could occur that could see the Fire even get up to the 7th place, a guaranteed playoff spot, albeit in an away game. They wouldn't have the worry of the play-in game and then a hurried-up match against the number 1 seed. There are scenarios for that to happen. Regardless, the Fire are at a 98% certainty of making the playoffs, according to the website playoffstatus.com. Now, what are some of the other scenarios? The only scenario here where the Fire don't qualify for the playoffs, play-in game or otherwise, is if they either lose out or they win no more games and draw no more than 1. So the Fire have to at least get 2 draws in their remaining matchups. That is what the Chicago Fire have to do to guarantee themselves a playoff spot. I wouldn't want to leave it that close. I think they can get a win in any of these last 3 games against at Miami, at home versus Toronto on October 4th, or away to New England on October 18th. They can win any of those games. I think the worst case scenario is they lose to Miami, have some sort of a shocker against Toronto or New England where they only win or they only draw one of those games. But again, the Fire need at least 2 draws in their final 3 matches in order to advance to the playoffs. It is likely that they will be in that 8th or 9th spot, depending on Columbus's end of the season matchups. Let me jump back to my standings here and get that going. Depending on how Columbus finishes the season, and even depending on how Orlando finishes the season, because the Fire are only 4 points behind Orlando in that 7th spot. So if you see Orlando and Columbus stumble, especially Orlando, over the course of their last couple 3 games, and Chicago wins out, there is the potential that you could see Chicago jumping into that 6th or 7th spot, depending again also if Nashville decides to just kind of tank at the end of the season here. Let's see, what other scenarios are out there? It's likely if they end up in the wild card spot, they will play Columbus. And then if they win that wild card game, that play-in game, they will likely be playing Philadelphia as the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's going to be a difficult out. Or if Cincinnati can somehow catch them and jump up into that 1 spot, they can play against Cincinnati. Now, I saw from the Battered Herons preview screen for their episode tonight that I'll be joining them on, that what does Miami have to do to win the Shield? I mean, they're 7 points behind Philadelphia right now, who is the leader. They're going to essentially have to win out and hope Philly loses out. I haven't run the numbers, but that's what it seems like to me for them to gain 7 or 8 points on Philadelphia. All right, so that's where we sit as far as our schedule, as far as the chances to make the playoffs, as far as play-in game or guaranteed playoffs seeding, whatever it is. But essentially, for the Chicago Fire, it's a win and you're in. Beat Miami, you're in. Let's get the job done tomorrow night. And I think that's going to be Greg Berhalter's message to this team. Get the job done tomorrow night. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to the last day. Don't leave it to decision day. Don't leave it to a match against a Toronto team that's playing a little better recently, a team that just drew Miami 1-1. Don't leave it to the Revs, who are going to look to play spoiler to the Chicago Fire. Don't leave these games to chance. Don't leave them to any sort of oddity that could pop up in the wildness of a Major League Soccer season. Win against Miami, win, and you're in. And I think the Fire can do that. Worst case, the worst thing that I want to see the Fire do is to go to Miami to play for a draw and then assume they'll get at least 1 more point in their last 2 games, and then they end up losing all 3. Because the Fire are going to have to get desperate then if they don't get a point at Miami. And the way they take a point at Miami is by going out and playing to win this game. Now, a couple other headlines have come out of this match. After his spectacular wonder goal, Gutman was selected to the MLS Team of the Match Day. I think this is his, third time he's been on Team of the Match Day this season. Back in Match Day 4 and 14. No one else from the Fire joined him either on the bench or on the Team of the Match Day. So kudos to Andrew Gutman for making an appearance there. Also, just something to keep track of, the Golden Boot race. Right now, we have Messi at the top of the race with 24 goals and 14 assists. He's got 4 matches remaining. It's pretty much his to lose. Bouanga has 23 goals, 8 assists with 4 matches remaining. And Sam Surridge, 22 goals, 5 assists with 2 matches remaining. Now, where is our Chicago Fire frontrunner? Hugo Cuypers currently sits tied for 7th place in the Golden Boot race. He's on 17 goals, 2 assists with 3 matches remaining. So Cuypers, in order to beat Messi and win the Golden Boot, is probably going to have to score a hat trick each of the Fire's remaining 3 games. I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibilities, but the probability is quite low on that one. But that's That's what happens when Messi joins your league, and that's what happens when you're the Chicago Fire team, who, yes, Hugo Cuypers is your striker of choice, is your number one goal-scoring option, but then you surround him with the likes of Jonathan Bamba, Philip Zinkernagel, and the rest of the crew who can all push forward into attack. Last year, he was the only option. This year, he is the first of several options. And you see the difference in the results for the Chicago Fire. One other thing to announce, the news broke late Thursday that has to do with the stadium. The stadium has been approved by the Chicago City Council. According to the website, this marks the first major stadium built in Chicago in more than 30 years. It's being delivered entirely through a private investment of owner and chairman Joe Mansueto. His vision and commitment will give our club a world-class home while creating a year-round destination for the entire city. And again, the Chicago City Council has approved the privately funded stadium in the 78 as of Thursday, September 25th. Now we get to hear from Dave Baldwin, president of business operations, who says, quote, "We're grateful to have received City Council approval for our new stadium, a transformative project that will anchor Chicago's newest neighborhood, the 78. We're grateful to the residents, community members, and public leaders whose support and input have shaped this project. With their partnership, we remain on track to open in time for the 2028 MLS season. This is more than just a stadium. It's a catalyst for the growth of both our club and Chicago. We look forward to taking the next steps in this exciting journey and continuing to invest in the future of our great city. We're just getting started." End quote. Well said, Dave Baldwin, and always leaving a little bit of a teaser there, a little bit of excitement at the end with "we're just getting started." To kind of round out the article, the new 22,000 seat capacity stadium is expected to break ground early 2026 and open in time for the 2028 MLS season. If you guys want to get your season tickets or secure seats there, go to dearchicago.com. Your deposit is only $19.97. A little homage to the year the club was founded. So that's everything we wanted to cover today. Again, if you get the chance, go check out the Battered Herons podcast and YouTube channel. I'll be talking with them a little bit tonight on the Chicago-Miami matchup. I also wanted to quickly say thank you to a couple other Chicago Fire reporters, to Joe Chatz and to Tim Hotza. Anytime I see them out and about at the tailgate, in the stadium, walking around, stop and say hi. They will always take time to come out and just chat about life, how are things going, to talk about the Fire, how the playoff picture looks, what's going on. So I just wanted to recognize those two guys. Make sure you're following Joe Chatz at OnTap Sportsnet and Tim Hotza over at Men in Red 97, as well as their individual social media accounts. They have such great reporting. They're the ones at the press conferences. They're the ones doing the yeoman's work of figuring out everything that's going on with the Chicago Fire and reporting it out to fans like me who just want to talk and have conversations and have some fun with the podcast, with the show. So I appreciate them always being so polite. And also they'll talk to my son. They'll say hi to him, ask him how he's doing. So just a couple of good guys that provide some great coverage on the Chicago Fire. So thanks again, Joe and Tim. With that, I will leave you all to the rest of your days. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy all the matches, and let's go Fire.